Hey Savvy Coders, welcome to the first video of a new series called Python Level 1. I don't want to waste your time, so we're just going to jump into it. Today's theme is about output and variables, and it is the basics of the basics that you can do with Python. You will see that in my series that I like to go over a presentation just so that we stay organized, and then we'll jump back and forth between coding and looking at the presentation at the same time. So if you like what you see, please like, comment, subscribe, share it with your friends, all of that. So let's get started. So the questions for today questions or statements that we will go over are the following. What is an output? What does output look like in Python? What things can output do in Python? What is a variable? What does a variable look like in Python? What things can a variable do in Python? What is concatenation? What is the difference between a plus and a comma? What are some ways we can format using escape characters? And last but not least, common mistakes. So we're going to start off with what is output. So I like to keep my definitions very simple. If I can't give you a simple definition, then I have not figured out an easier way to explain things. And that's the whole point of Tech Savvy Code, is for anybody to be able to learn how to code in a simple way. So output is a result. In computer science, it's pretty much what you see on the screen. And so here are some examples of output in real life. Headphones output audio or music. Your monitor, which you're currently seeing right now on your screen, is output because it's what you're seeing. And we have this printer. The printer outputs paper that has text or images on it that it prints on. What does output look like in Python? So we use this thing called the print command. And if you notice, print has the word print in lowercase letters, and then we have these parentheses. And that command is also called a function. So you'll hear me say command and function interchangeably, but it's the same thing. These are two examples of a print command. So if you notice, print in my example is in blue. Normally in different editors, the command that you're using will turn a different color so that you know that it is a command or a function. And then I have my parentheses, and inside of my parentheses, I wrote some text. My first print statement says, hello world, and my second print statement says, welcome to Tech Savvy Code. So let's see what that looks like on an editor, because it's practice time. And I am gonna jump to an online editor that everyone can use to learn how to code, and it's called Rippleit. And it is a free service, and you can either log in or sign up. You can log in, if you click here, with Google, GitHub, or Facebook, or you can go back and sign up with a normal email address. The reason why I use online editors is because it doesn't matter what computer I'm on. As long as I have internet, I have access to my code. And Rippleit is one of the few websites where you can have access to multiple languages other than Python. If you prefer to use a non-online editor, like an offline editor such as just Python, you can go to python.org and download that. But my series will always be on Rippleit because I can also share my examples with you by just sharing a URL. So I'm going to press G. I already have a Google account connected, so it is going to take me to Tech Savvy Code. So at the top, in the middle, depending on if you just sign up or not, it'll ask you to do extra information, but you don't necessarily need to do that right now. I'm going to go to My Repples, and then I'm going to click on Create New REPL. So when you click on Create New REPL, you will see multiple options. The top ones will be my favorites. I normally program in Python, Java, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But there are other languages. You can just click the search bar to find what we're looking for. We're actually looking for Python. And if you notice, there are multiple different options for Python. We're just going to use regular Python, not 2.7, not Python with Turtle, not Pygame. These are different versions of Python, but we're going to use this one. All right, so we're going to give our Python project a name right here, and I am going to call this output and variables. And I'm going to click create. So here's our editor. On the left hand side, there are options. You can click on some of them, and right next to the options are files. So we can put more than one file, but we probably won't be using this anytime soon. In the middle is where we're going to type in our code, and on the right is where the output is going to show. You do have options in your settings to change some things. Instead of doing a side-by-side layout, you could do stacked, and stack looks like this. I like side-by-side, but you can do it on your own preference. Theme, you can do light versus dark. Dark for me is pretty hard on the eyes, so I'm always normally going to code this in light theme. Font size, I'm going to make it larger just because I'm recording. Indentation spaces, we'll keep them the same. All of this other stuff will keep the same. All right, so we are ready to code. And if you notice, there is a 1, so that's line 1. This does not show up on your runtime. It's just to keep track of what line you're currently on. So let's print out our first print statement. So you're going to say print. And if you notice, there are things that are going to pop up that are intelligent. So if you click on it, it'll format the print for you. But I prefer, unless you already know what to do, I prefer you to just type it in so that you can practice. Actually, I can turn it off. So let's see, I'm going to go back to settings and turn off code intelligence. All right. So let's try this again. Print. And then you need your parentheses. And then whatever you want to say or whatever you want to print out, you must use quotation marks. So hello world by default is, by tradition, the thing that we type in first. So I'm going to press run, and voila, I have hello world here. A little known fact, print is just like the real world printer. So printer, prints out things on paper, but our print command will print out onto the screen on the right hand side. So the second print that I did in my example was welcome to Tech Savvy Code, and I can press run. And if you notice, each print statement will put your output on a different line. Okay, so whenever you hear the word output, that means that I want you to print something. Got it? You can add one more. Maybe you can write your name. Hello, my name is Portia. And voila. So that's the simple part of print. So print means output in Python. In almost every language, there is a print statement because output for us is printing. They're just interconnected. What things can output do in Python? Now, at first you saw we can put quotation marks and we can type out words, but print statements can do more than just that. So this whole thing of this this image here is just to represent words, but if you look on the right, we also have this thing called calculations. So we can actually do math and output or prints, and I will show you how to do that. By the way, if you want to make comments, you do this thing called a hashtag, and the hashtag means that to comment out this line, meaning that this line of code that I'm going to write, or a line of text that I'm going to write on line 5, will not show here. So I'm going to write a comment and say how to do calculations. All right. And if I press run, just so you can see, it does not show that comment. So how to do calculations. Now, if I use a print, and instead of putting things with quotation marks, which are actually called strings or words, if I put numbers without quotation marks and add a plus, for example, what Python will do is it knows that it's not a word. It will just calculate what's there. So if I say 500 plus 12 and press run, and press run, it's gonna give me 512 because it's solving. So I'll do one of each simple statement, which is plus. You also have minus. So if I say 200 minus 1, run, I'll end up with 199. Print. If I want to do a division, like 100 divided by 10, I can press run and I would get 10.0. And last but not least, multiplication. If I wanted to do 3 times 5, the times is a asterisk. So press run and I get 15. Print statements also, when you're doing math, do the whole parentheses thing, just like in math. If you put parentheses in extra parentheses inside of your print statement, it'll solve that information first and then do the other things, just like in the same rules of math. So if I do 5 times 5 divided by 2, and I press run, it'll multiply 5 times 5 and then divide it by 2 in that manner. I'll add one extra one for some of you mathies. Let's say I wanted to do an exponent. You can actually do an exponent by just doing 2 asterisk stars next to each other. So if I wanted to say 3 to the second power, I would do 2 stars and then a 2 like this. And then this is saying 3, and then this is raising the next number to the power. So 3 to the power of 2, which is 9. All right. And so those are simple calculations, and you can have a lot of fun with this. So right now we know how to output sentences, and we can do some simple calculations in the print, but that's kind of boring. Let's actually, build up on our ability to write a more complex program. And to be able to do that, you need to understand what variables are. So what is a variable? In simple form, a variable is a container that saves one piece of information. And if you want to understand even further, you can watch my video about variables. I will post it in the link below and right now. So in this picture, there is a box that has a name and then a piece of paper that is going to contain some type of information. But please note that there is a variable can change, but it only contains one piece of information. So if the variable changes, the information, the prior information does not exist in the variable anymore. It can only save one thing. So what does a variable look like in Python? Simply enough, you give the variable a name and make it equal to something. So for example, I have name equals Grace. So this is the variable. It's called name, and it will contain the word Grace. My second variable is age. So this is a variable. It's called age, and it will equal 85. We will practice in a few seconds. I do want to point out the different things that you can do in a variable, because if you started to notice, there are formats for different things. We can save variables with different types of data. And these are the 4 main data types across multiple languages. We have a string, which is a string of characters or anything with quotation marks. and we have them marked in red. And if you notice, they always have quotation marks, even numbers. If the number has quotation marks around it, that means it's a string, it's not a number. Integer is a whole number, like 100, and a float is a decimal number, which is like 3.14. A boolean is true or false, and an example is just by saying capital true or capital false. And we'll get into booleans not in this lesson, but in a different lesson. So let's practice. So I'm gonna make a new comment and say variables. So let's start off with the simple ones, name and age. So let's go ahead and create a variable called name, make it equal your name. I'm gonna say Portia, and then I'm gonna say age equals 30. Make sure to not put your age with quotation marks because it's not a real number. If you put quotation marks around around 30 or the age that you've placed in there, if I try to do simple calculations with age, it's gonna do something that you don't expect it to do. And we'll talk about that later on. So, if I press run, let's see if the variables show. No, they do not. I need you guys to understand that when you create a variable, it does not necessarily show on the screen. And that's the reason why we actually start off with output. Because if you want something to show on the screen, you must output the information. And so to output, remember that output is affiliated with print. So we're going to say print name and then press run. And then there's Portia. And let's, on a different line, also print age and press run again. And I'm going to write a note that says how to output a variable. All right, let's do one challenge. Challenge 1. I want you to pause the video after I tell you what the challenge is and see if you can figure it out on your own before you continue. I want you to create a variable called color, make it equal to your favorite color, and then print out that color. Once again, pause the video if you don't want to see the solution. Okay, here is the solution. We'll just say color equals whatever color you want. I'm going to put purple, and then I'm going to say print color. And you've completed your first challenge. All right, let's go back. So what is concatenation? Concatenation means to join things together. And we have actually 2 ways to join. And the first one I'm going to start off with is a plus sign. So we know how to make a variable, and it's called name equals Grace. And then if I want to print out a sentence with a variable and some words, you actually need to use concatenation to be able to do that. And so if I want to print out my name is and plus name, I need to have something that can join. And for this example, we're using the join of a plus sign. So plus, in math, you know, plus means to add things together. When you have non-numbers, the plus means to join things together. So instead of add, you just glue them or piece them together and they become one. Some people ask, why is this important? Because I could have just written print my name is Grace in one line instead of having a variable. But remember that variables can change, and eventually you're going to learn that you want your variable to go based off of what someone writes in or inputs into your program. So it might not say Grace. It might say Barney or Bob or whatever you want to write. And you still want the sentence to still say my name is Bob instead of just saying my name is Grace. So adding a variable here will allow the sentence to change based off of what name will contain at the moment. The second way is to join information with commas. And so I have age equals 85, and then I print I am, comma, age, comma, years old. Now commas do the same thing as plus signs. They join things together, but they also add a space, and we'll practice that. And commas also do one other thing, which is it allows you to join, if you notice age is an integer, it allows you to join numbers without a problem. When you use a plus sign to join numbers, an integer or a float, you get this error where it requires you to change your number into a string. And I don't want to get into that right now. I'll just say that when you want to write a sentence and it has numbers, just go ahead and just use the commas for now. So let's practice. I'm going to add a new section by commenting it out. We're going to say printing sentences with variables. All right, so let's go ahead and print out our first sentence. Let's say print, my name is space plus name. Press run. And my name is Portia. And I also want to, point out the same thing I mentioned before, which is if I change this to Bob, it should still print out my name is Bob instead of saying my name is Portia, because we've applied a variable that can change versus just writing my name is Grace. All right. Or my name is Portia. So I'm going to put this back. All right. And then let's try age. So I am, and remember you don't have to add an extra space here because the commas will do the spaces for you. Age, comma, years old. I'm going to press run. And it's going to say I am 30 years old. I do want to show you what happens when you do the plus within a number. So if I say I am plus age plus years old, I'm going to press run. And here I get an error. It says main file.py, which is this, line 27, which is here. The print statement that I wrote, error, can only concatenate str, which stands for string, not int, which stands for integer. So it notices that age is a number, and it's expecting it to be a string or word. So for now, in order to make this work, you need to put commas instead of pluses. Okay? I'm going to press run. I don't get that error anymore. I am going to get rid of this line just so that it doesn't do it twice. All right. Practice time is over. So what is the difference between a plus and a comma? I mentioned this before. They both join things together, but commas automatically add a space and convert non-string data types into strings so that they work. So you saw my example where I said age was a number, and if you put a plus sign, it gives you an error. So you have to use commas, all right, because it will automatically do it for you to make it work. Plus signs does not add a space, and you must convert non-string data on your own. And if you don't, you get errors like you saw before. And in the future video, you'll learn how to convert types. What are some ways we can format using escape characters? Ooh, escape characters. Those are pretty fun. Just because if you notice with the print, all the print will do is print out the line, and then when you use another print, it just prints out on a different line. But you can also add different things to your print statement so that it does different things on its own without just using a print. So these are the different escape characters. There are a few others, but I thought these were the main ones that you guys could simply use. One is called \n, and it creates a new line in the middle of the text. And so hello world, instead of it being on one line, it'll say hello and then create a new line and put world on a different line. And so I'll practice that. Then we have the \t, which creates a tab. And if I wanted to print the cost, but it have a tab just creates about 4 spaces between cost colon and the amount. So we're going to add a T to just space it out, but not put it on a different line. And then if you notice, because we use the backslash and because we use quotation marks, you can't, in order to keep the quotation marks, you have to format it a specific way. So we use backslash single quote and backslash double quote to keep the quotes inside of our prints. So I have my first example that says great minds think alike. And if I want to put single quotes around minds, I need to put backslash single quote before the word and backslash single quote at the end of the word to create a single quote. I also have wow, look at those quotes. And I want to keep my double quotes, so I'll put backslash double quote before look and backslash double quote before after look to create the double quotes around look. And then if you want to keep a backslash, because backslash is considered an escape character, you're going to use 2 backslashes to keep 1. I know it sounds confusing, but if you don't do 2, it just won't show because it's expecting you to put NT single quote or a double quote after it. So if you put 2, then it knows that you want to keep a backslash. So I was trying to do googlesearch.com with the backslash, and so to keep that backslash, I did 2 to keep it. All right. So let's practice really quick just so you can see what they look like. I'll create using escape characters. All right. So our first print was trying to print out hello world, but hello was going to be on one line and then the other one was going to be on another line. Now, please note that this is a backslash and this is a forward slash. If you notice, they highlight different colors. A forward slash does not do anything for you. It is a character that will just show, just like in a sentence. But this backslash, if you notice it highlighted pink, Python knows that that is meant for something specific, and you need to make sure that your slash goes the right direction. So I'm going to say backslash n, and I'm going to say world after. And then I'm going to run just to see what happens. If you notice, hello is on one line and world is on a different line because that's what backslash n does. All right. I'm going to print my next one from my example, and I'm going to say cost. And then I want to do a backslash t, and I want to print out some money that's not real money because it's in a string. $5. Press run. And so if you notice, it creates this space right here, which is 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, which is a tab. All right, so instead of you manually having to press space bar 4 times, you can just use backslash T to format something. All right. And then the next one was a single quote. And I wrote great minds, but with a quotation mark here. And then one here. Think alike. I'm going to run. And there goes my quotes. Don't exactly remember what I wrote for this one. I think it was wow, look at those quotes. Wow, look at those quotes. Quoutes. I don't know if I spelled that right. I always get this wrong. Is it OU or UO? Something like that. I want to put double quotes around look. So I'm going to do backslash quotation marks, backslash quotation marks at the end, and then press run. And look at those quotes. All right. And then let's do the other last thing, which was backslashes. And I was trying to do www.google.com /search. And there goes my backslash there. All right. All right, common mistakes. And we're at the end. Wow, that was quick. Every function and variable is case sensitive. So you do not want to put a capital P in your print or add any spaces. You can also tell by the color of the command. If the color doesn't highlight the right color, then there's something wrong with your code, depending. I know with prints, there are 2 different colors if you're using the offline version of Python. I think it highlights blue and purple, but it's fine. That does still work. But if you're using Rippleit, for example, if it does not highlight the color that we had before, which was blue, then there's something wrong. So like if I put capital P and try to do a print, if you notice, it doesn't highlight blue because something's wrong. I'm going to put it lowercase and then it does that. Also, variables are case sensitive. So for example, name with a capital N and lowercase name are not the same. These are not equal because Python and almost every other language, when you create a variable, it looks at how you created the variable name so that it saves it in a certain location. And if you have a different look for the name with other capitals or spaces or anything added, they are not the same. Okay, so just be mindful of that. You also can't put spaces in between words. So let's say if I wanted to say first name, some people think that you should make your variable like this, but you cannot do that. Your variable has to be seamless, no gaps, no spaces. You can put an underscore to specify the space, or you just keep it like this with no spaces, or you can put a capital N to specify. This is called camel case, where you specify the next word in multiple word variables. So you can do multiple things. Just no spaces. Okay. When using strings, make sure it's paired with either double or single quotes, but not both. And what I mean by that is, let's say I am trying to print something or just assign something. Let's say I wanted to do name equals. By default, most editors give you both pairs, but I'm going to erase one just to show you. So if I try to put Portia and then put a single quote here, you can't do that. So a double quote here and a single quote here, you need to be consistent. So if you're going to put a double quote here, you need to have a double quote here. If you're going to use a single quote here, you need to just choose one and make sure that they pair. They work both the same, double and single quotes, in Python. And it doesn't really matter what you use. They just need to be paired correctly. Almost everything in Python needs to be paired correctly, including the parentheses too. So if you have one parenthesis here, you need to have a closing parenthesis. Yeah, and that's it. So this is where we end for today. And I hope you enjoyed this lesson. I hope you learned something new if you've never programmed before. And I hope it was simple enough for you to understand. And if you need any clarity, please comment, like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next episode.